outside and pretty beautiful surroundings. So we want to bring the nature inside. So we put a big like windows.
This beam was originally one of the struts that when we tunneled through downtown Boston, we put structural walls in, but in order to avoid settlement outside the tunnel, which was a critical concern considering the fact that the adjacent structures were historical, we had to install internal braces to keep the walls from moving in. And these beams, used in pairs, laced together, were the struts for the tunnel. So we have this point where the beam runs through the wall. Obviously, it gets pretty cold, these parts, and outside the steel's going to cool down. We were afraid of the cold intruding right through the steel. So we tried to focus on heating the steel right at the wall interface, and that's what you can see with these raised panels on the webs. Behind those panels are loops of the radiant system that's also in the floors. And when the temperature outside gets below 40 degrees, there's a discrete circuit that turns on and it pushes hot water through those loops and it heats the end of the steel beams.
It was kind of a technical hurdle that we had to clear that became a kind of nice feature as well, since the beams will hold and heat energy for a long period of time.
Due to the unique materials used for this size house, innovative solutions were a necessity. The beams not only hold up the structure and define its style, but heat the house as well.
When we built the house, we had the entire steel support system built in a day, and we took 13 of these slabs, and they became the floor of the house, and it took us 2 days to assemble those. So the whole house, the whole structure was basically complete in 3 days. We supersized the foundations to 4 foot square, and they go down and they sit on a slab of concrete that's 8 foot square and 2 foot thick. And that's sitting on solid rock, so there's zero chance that this house is going to settle. But it's a heck of a lot of weight. We calculate it to be about 500 tons, so it's about 1 million pounds. Well, my wife, Christina, is a water resources engineer, and as such, one of her main focuses was to reclaim water. And we have the Japanese garden on the roof of the garage. We thought that it would be best to collect the water from that garden.
You put a waterproofing layer, as in any other roof, because you don't want to have leaks. But then, before putting your soil, you have to put a drainage layer that also filters the water, so it doesn't contain any type of suspended particles on it. And that water goes into a cistern, and then you just have to pump it back.
He's reinventing this Bauhaus idea, this American utopian idea, by using discarded highway parts. And I think that's what's so wonderful about this project and the projects that are supposed to come out of it, is that it's wonderfully fresh thinking, it's adventuresome thinking, and it's both tied to modernism's roots. At the same time, it very much looks to the future.
I think we fit in. We push the boundaries, obviously, a lot. We have the steel showing outside the house, and those were things that I think made certain people nervous in the beginning. But now that people have become used to it, it's now the sort of the feature of the house that people tend to notice.
Right now, I think we're level of not tolerance, but as soon as we have a bathroom done, I'll be ready. Boom, I'll move in.
I'm really liking the way it looks now, and I'll be a heck of a lot more happy when I'm shooting pool in the kitchen in a couple months.
So much of smart growth and sustainable development is just about models and successful models, and then people can look at it and say, "Hey, that's pretty neat. That makes a lot of sense." And the next project is easier to do because of that. And that happens a lot in smart growth and green building, where it takes one project to sort of break the ice, and then after that it becomes suddenly, more acceptable and indeed sought after.
A couple of the neighbors were a little bit reserved in their comments, especially in the beginning when it was big and ugly and there was a lot of steel and concrete showing. But they've all been incredibly supportive. But what's interesting to me is that a couple of the neighbors have actually come forth and asked if we could give them prices to build them a house. And I think that that's undoubtedly the best flattery one can get on a house like this. And we hope to do a much larger commercial project. And I think that's when the real notoriety will come.
What are the possibilities for other discarded freeways, old bridges, and demolished overpasses? Is there a second life out there waiting for them? Will we be smart enough to recognize it?
Metropolis started the Next Generation Design Competition in 2004, and John and Ginny Hong from Single Speed Design entered a housing project, actually a housing development, which is multiple housing, based on the raw materials that they have mined from the Big Dig. The judges were saying that if we're going to talk about sustainability, we're going to have to also think about tighter development. So their Single Speed's proposal, reusing the structure of some of the structure of the Big Dig and making it in beautiful housing, which is, by the way, extremely beautiful. And that was so compelling to everyone that they just swept over every other project. And then so they won the $10,000 prize of that Metropolis offers to develop a big idea.
It was a kind of public recognition finally that the idea was possibly legitimate, was possibly a good idea. Once you get larger in scale, it's that much more simpler to assemble it. You save that much more time, labor, and materials. If you fit the pieces in their most natural way, it's basically rebuilding the highway. It's kind of that was one of the revelations, I think, in the project. We were trying to do so many things with it, and then we admitted, this thing is a highway. Let's just assemble it. And all of a sudden, it was curved, it was elegant.
We want to kind of celebrate the materials, and we want to express the beauty of the material too.
So it's not just about recycling our cans and bottles, even our old highways. It's about recycling the way we think, taking our old ideas and giving them new life, and tapping into possibilities that are limitless.
I think the idea is growing, and people are looking at this as a very interesting solution to the garbage problem, the construction garbage problem. It's a huge issue. And when we stop labeling it and just do it and call it architecture or call it really good design, then I think we have achieved something.
When they built the temporary bridges on the artery with these structures, they did so with the purpose of disassembling them. It would be quick to take them apart. There's no reason why any structure of this type, anywhere in the country in the future, can't be built in the same fashion. There should be a mandate that any temporary structure would be designed with materials that could be easily reused. And if I could take it apart as easily as these slabs were taken apart, throw them in a truck and take them to another place, there's no end to that cycle. Because these materials will last hundreds of years if they're properly maintained. But it's usually because it's too big, or it's with the way it was attached to the original structure. You have to pretty much destroy it to free it up. All you need is a little bit of thinking in the beginning to that first structure goes together with the intent of taking it apart, and that's where I think a lot of progress could be made immediately. There's materials everywhere that if you just look, you can find them. I don't worry about supply at all. I think that regardless of what city you're in, we're taking down a bridge right now in Charleston, South Carolina, and there's 27,000 tons of steel that are going to be produced by that bridge. And jobs like that are happening every day.
Over 60% of the world's energy goes into building, heating or cooling, or dealing with the construction waste of buildings. And that buildings themselves, just in terms of the amount of space of the planet's surface that they cover, actually have a big impact on the environment. I think that there is this growing awareness that we should be taking more care in how we build buildings and making sure that they have less of an impact on the environment, and that they're more efficient in terms of the energy use.
Adaptive reuse, we've been talking about that a great deal for decades now, and I think that's part of the sustainability story, is that you use what you have and where you have it. So whether it's an old building that's perfectly adaptable to a new use and lives on and creates a whole new environment for new uses, or whether you use the materials that are available to you, in like the materials of the Big Dig. Those are all really important to think about.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. And you shouldn't disregard any possibility in thinking. And it makes sustainable architecture exciting. And that's, I think, the value.
I think we enjoy the fact that people are excited about the house, but I think it's more important that people get behind the idea behind the house and start looking at the problem we have with all the waste that we're creating on projects like this, and come up with creative ways of reusing it. And since most of this construction is federally funded, I would think that the government would create a program, or could create a program, where that second use, which would be a permanent use, could be engineered into the job at the outset. And I think that our next move, aside from additional construction projects, is to foster some sort of engineering study that will encourage the government to set up a program like that.
For more information on this series, go to pbs.org. To order the 6-part DVD of Design E2, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS.